lift up our most vulnerable communities and their resources, we lift up all of Memphis, all of Shelby County. And so today, we are marching for our future, we are marching for our neighbors, and we are marching to protect our aquifer.
My name is Victoria Terry. I'm with Memphis Sand Aquifer Institute. We are a constituency group. So we organize different labor unions. We do everything. So I'm here on behalf of Justin and Keyshawn. They cannot be here today, but I'm so happy to be here with Memphis Community Against the Pipeline. We're gonna go ahead and get started. I wanna bring up Miss Pearl Walker. So that Miss Pearl Walker, to get this thing going. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Pearl Walker, Environmental and Climate Justice Chair for the Memphis Chapter NAACP and Civic Engagement Consultant for SACE, that's the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy. First, I want to share a brief statement issued by SACE on July 9th, 2021. We at SACE are pleased that the Byhalia Pipeline is no longer advancing and are grateful, I know, right? And are grateful to the Memphis activists, advocates, and elected leaders who fought the proposal. As we published earlier this year, amidst our dire need to rapidly transition from fossil fuels to clean energy, there is no place for a project like this that seeks to prolong the era of oil-based transportation by suing families in predominantly Black low-income neighborhoods for land rights through eminent domain families who already bear too heavy a burden from nearby sources of pollution despite minimal public benefit and subjecting Memphis's drinking water supply to the threat of an oil spill. Once again, that's from the Southern Alliance of Clean Energy, and I am their civic engagement consultant here in Memphis. So, as it refers to the threat of a water supply, a threat to our water supply, a threat of an oil spill, the NAACP National Environmental and Climate Justice Committee identifies environmental injustice as a civil rights issue. They released a report entitled Fossil Foolery, it's such a tongue twister for me, to shed light on deceptive tactics used by fossil fuel conglomerates and their supporters at the expense of communities most affected by their pollution. Environmental racism is much bigger than the Byhalia Pipeline that wanted to cut through historically Black communities in Southwest Memphis. And because environmental injustices are happening all over the country, they came up with this report called Fossil Foolery. It identifies and describes common tactics used by the industry, provides real facts on issues, provides stories and strategies of action and advocacy. So they felt it was important to report how fossil fuel companies use deceptive PR tactics to convince the public that their products are actually good for people and the planet. So as it relates to why we are here today, I'm about to share 2 of the top 10 fossil fuelery tactics that these companies have used to deceive the public in order to sell planet-warming products. And they are, number 2 on the list, finance political campaigns and pressure politicians. And number 4, contend that government regulations hurt the economy, ratepayers, and poor people. Let me read that one again. Contend that government regulations hurt the economy, ratepayers, and poor people. But I'm here today to tell you that these ordinances are not about hurting the economy, they are not about hurting ratepayers, and they are not about hurting the community. Today is about protecting the people and the environment. We must protect our water and the environment. When you don't protect the water, you are not protecting the people, you are not protecting the environment. Repeat after me. When you don't protect the water,
When you don't protect the water,
you are not protecting the people and the environment.
you're not protecting the people and the environment.
But unfortunately, Memphis has a history of not protecting the people. So I want to take you back in history for a moment. By a show of hands, how many of you all were here during the yellow fever epidemic? Okay, let me try that again. How many of you all know about the yellow fever epidemic?
All right.
Okay. Well, that's much better. So, did you know that in response to spreading the yellow fever epidemic, the mayor of Memphis on July 28, 1878, imposed a quarantine, which blocked railroad lines, and also there was an embargo of ships and barges stopping in Memphis. Well, the local businessmen, they threatened a lawsuit. You've heard of that before, haven't you? The local businessmen threatened a lawsuit against the city of Memphis unless they released the train goods from New Orleans. So as a result, city leaders folded under pressure. They folded under pressure and gave in. So the railways were opened up and the boats came back in, and you know what happened after that. But two good things came out of that. A major positive side effect after the 1879 epidemic, because we were affected. It came 5 times. So as Memphis leaders embarked on ambitious sanitary reform, the centerpiece of the sanitary reforms was a revolutionary sewer system with an unprecedented design which separated the sanitary sewer system from the storm sewers. This design that made Memphis the envy of others and was to revolutionize the design of sewer systems around the country. It was very popular. People were traveling here, civic engineers and all sorts of city officials and leaders to study our sewer system. And then shortly after that, an artesian aquifer was discovered. Under Memphis, down the street a ways, near what we know as Court Square. It provided the city with an abundant supply of clean and safe water for years to come, and we are still enjoying that water today, and that's why we're here today, to protect this clean and safe water. It became one of the best water sources in the country, and still is. All these reforms and changes immediately benefited the business district and the wealthier neighborhoods of the city. However, it would be years before these innovations would reach the neighborhoods of the poor. So our city leaders and business leaders back then knew that the yellow fever was harmful, and they knew of its tragic effects multiple times. And our current leaders, the Memphis City Council, they have received information from an endless number of sources via emails, phone calls, texts, and presentations regarding the dangers of not protecting our water.
Right.
Our community matters. Memphis is a special and unique place with a diversity of cultures and rich history, many of whom are homeowners, property owners, taxpayers, and of course, registered voters. Earlier this year, on February 25th, 2021, the members and general body of the NAACP Memphis branch adopted a resolution and voted to take an official position against the Byhalia pipeline. President Vicky Terry, Executive Director. Additionally, the NAACP State Conference has also took a stand against the Byhalia pipeline. So, many judge that this was a historic moment for our chapter, as it was founded 104 years ago last month in June of 1917, and is one of the oldest branches in the organization that Ida B. Wells helped to find, by the way.
Yeah.
And we all know what her position would be on pipelines and protecting aquifers. So in honor of the 104th anniversary of the NAACP Memphis branch, we are asking that you don't repeat the history of our leadership during the yellow fever epidemic and give in to corporate interests. We are asking that you don't repeat the history of our leadership and give in to corporate interests.
Thank you.
A no vote is a vote in favor. A no vote is a vote in favor of not protecting the people. You must vote to protect the people. You must vote to protect the people. You must vote unanimously. We want all 13 representatives to vote for the ordinance protecting our water. It's important that we protect the people, that we protect the water, and we protect the environment. Once again, I'm Pearl Walker, EJ Chair, Memphis Chapter, NAACP, and Civic Engagement Coordinator with SAY, Southern Alliance for Clean Energy. Thank you.
So we already know that corporate interests do not line up with human interest or humane things that need to be done for us as people, right? We see this, right?
Yep, every day.
Because the very thing that these corporations are worried about is what? Money. So this whole free market utopia where we let the markets rule everything, that's kind of not working out that well for us, right?
No.
Right? Really? Because we all know that corporations' fiduciary duty, their primary responsibility is to be concerned with stockholder profits, be above anything else, stockholder profits. So if that means running a pipeline through an area that they thought no one cared about, if it increases their profit, they have to be for that by law, not by anything else, not by what anybody wants. They do not have to be concerned with the well-being of people.
Right.
So every time we hear this corporate narrative, I don't care if it's a pipeline or healthcare, that fiduciary duty for that corporation is the same. It is not concerned about the health and well-being of people. Now, I'm from a contaminated neighborhood, believe it or not. I have dealt with brain cancers in my mom and my sisters and hysterectomies with my other sisters, and just have another neighbor now that has to have a hysterectomy too because of an out of control, aggressive uterine cancer that seems to come out of nowhere, but we all know it's because of the area that we grew up in. That was tied to the Department of Defense, that was also tied to Boeing and several other private corporations too. So in this vote, we have a chance right now to protect our most valuable resource. We don't have time to play politics with people that are taking corporate money. If they are taking this corporate money and we find out, then they need to be removed. There doesn't need to be any type of understanding, because there is none when it comes to this. If we don't have water, we don't have life.
No.
So explain to me how we're going to survive without water. Explain that to me. Explain that. Explain how your corporate donations outweigh the health of a whole community in the city. And not just that one community, because if you do it in one community, it's going to end up in all the rest of them. We already have a lead problem in our water here because of old lead pipes. We already have a pollution problem. So why is it that we actually have politicians telling us that they need to think about it?
Nope.
I mean, does somebody help me with that? How many politicians' arms had to be twisted to come and even say a word or two about this issue? So many just chose to be quiet. So many just told, just were quiet and they didn't know all the facts. Well, the fact is that oil contaminates. Yep. That's what it does. Anywhere you put a pipeline, anywhere you put anything like that, it's going to end up contaminating or poisoning something. And the risk is too great. So if we have politicians that are choosing to not stand with us, they don't need to be in office. And I'm not talking about just waiting on election day. I'm talking about a smear campaign against them. Every time their name comes up, you need to be showing how they supported the contamination of our water. And just to add this to it, change has never come from politicians. I think we need to dispel this myth that's been really spoon-fed to us over the last 40 or 50 years. Every type of change that we ever saw in this country came when the people got in the street and said no. It wasn't being respectable. They got the nice. I heard Jim Clyburn say one of the craziest things to Media Son last week when he said that Burn Baby Burn cost the Democratic Party seats in 1960. No, you were lying, Jim Clyburn, because if they did not say Burn Baby Burn, you would not have gotten that Civil Rights Act, you would not have gotten the Voting Rights Act, and if you don't believe me, go back and read it for yourself. They asked Martin Luther King when he didn't get the Voting Rights Act passed the first time. They said, King, since LBJ says he can't do it, what are you going to do now? He says, I'm going to go right back to the street and make them do it. King not at one time endorsed LBJ or any other Democratic or Republican candidate, did he? But he said, I'm going where? Back to the street. So dispel this whole notion that it only takes respectability and voting to change policy. It has never just been that. Because what we found is that a lot of our politicians are just taking money, enriching themselves, getting their kids into the best schools and into the best neighborhoods while leaving our neighborhoods to rot and be poisoned. So in this, if these politicians, if our elected officials are not going along with the people, they don't need to be in office. Their name needs to be dirtied up. They had no problem going along with dirtying our water and our soil. And I'm gonna tell you all, dealing with the fallout from contamination, it takes a toll. I have watched my family members succumb to brain cancer and all these weird diseases that come along with it. At no fault of our own, trying our best to stay healthy. And if you have never seen that, then I pray that you never do. That's the reason why things like this are so important. Because we are going to be the ones that suffer. They're going to be in the better parts. They're going to be in the better neighborhoods with the better schools. And they're going to leave us to rot. So at this point, we don't have time to play nice with politicians. Vote to protect this aquifer. Vote to protect our water. Vote against any corporation or any group that comes in seeking to contaminate our areas. Because if you poison water in one neighborhood, eventually it's going to end up in all of our water supplies. And again, my name is Frank Johnson, and let's fight to put this policy through.
And so we're here today to encourage the City Council to vote yes on two ordinances. One, 1,500-foot setback for oil pipelines. That's county and city. We also are looking for a vote yes on the creation of an underground infrastructure review board. This is simple stuff, y'all. Come on. So these two ordinances were not created solely because of Byhalia, because we already canceled that. Yeah, we still care. We still want these ordinances passed. They were drafted by Mayor Harris. They were drafted by Councilman Jeff Warren and Ford Sr. to address the regulatory gaps that the Byhalia pipeline process revealed. So no, that pipeline is over, done. But we know there could be future threats. So these ordinances are to protect us against future problems. So, these two ordinances will not end centuries of racism. These two ordinances will not end decades of environmental injustices that Frank and Pearl are talking about. These will not protect our drinking water from nearly a century of neglect. I wish it was just a wave of a wand that easy. No, but what they will do is they will begin to ask the right questions for projects like this. They will begin to take into account our drinking water supply when we're making development decisions. And what they will begin to do is let the voice of the people be heard. So again, these were not created solely for Byhalia pipeline and stopping that. That's been done. We saw that Byhalia was the catalyst for this because of those regulatory gaps. Those discovered that when they got their permits, they received their state permits, they received their federal permits, they were able to plow right through the Davis well field that supplies drinking water to all of Southwest Memphis. Got through a wellhead protection zone. What kind of protecting are we doing if we're plowing through a well field? Yeah. So they received these state and federal approvals. They also received them to rip up brand new earth running through the backyards of Black communities. They, in Southwest Memphis, and a lot of Memphis, have bared the brunt of environmental pollution for a very, very long time. They stood up and said, no more. We're done with that. So collectively, there's been an acknowledgement of no. So our local government today has the ability to fix this oversight on the local level. It's really for crude oil pipelines, and that's what we're asking them to do today. When we lift up our most vulnerable communities and their resources, we lift up all of Memphis, all of Shelby County. And so today, we are marching for our future, we are marching for our neighbors, and we are marching to protect our aquifer. So with that, we're going to rally up, head to City Hall, and we'll be talking to you once again.
No oil in our soil. No oil in our soil. Protect the aquifer. Protect the aquifer. Protect the aquifer. Protect the aquifer. Don't slaughter our water. Don't slaughter our water. Don't slaughter our water. Don't slaughter our water. Vote today. Don't delay. Vote today.
Your attention. Okay, so y'all, my name's Sarah Houston. I'm Executive Director of Protect Our Aquifer. We just had a nice 1 mile walk and 1 mile march.
Step up to the mic.
Yeah, sure can. Just had a nice 1 mile march from the Civil Rights Museum. We got people from all over Memphis, all over Shelby County, even some out-of-state people, and we're here primarily looking at one thing. We're looking for City Council to pass Ordinance 5794. So we want them, don't delay, vote today! All right, so let me give you all a little story about when I was working at University of Memphis, Caesar. So when I was working there, Vahalia pipeline representatives, they came to our office to learn about the aquifer system here. They were told that they got something important here. Came to our office, they didn't have a map of the route yet, and we told them about the geology, about these breaches in our clay layer that allow that connection from the surface to the aquifer system. They came again and they visited with this proposed route. We weren't allowed to keep the maps. None of the streets were labeled very well. But one of our lead scientists, he looked at that map and pointed and said, that looks like it goes right through Davis Wellfield. So of course, we were alarmed. You don't need crude oil going through our drinking water supply, where our water is pumped up out of the ground and delivered to communities in Southwest Memphis, Foxtown, Westwood, Whitehaven, and President's Island. So behind closed doors, Caesar representatives had meetings with elected officials, with other agencies concerned about the proposed pipeline, and they were told that this pipeline goes through the Davis Wellfield, told time and time again. Regardless, the nationwide 12 permit was put on fast track, approved by Army Corps of Engineers for this proposed Vahalia pipeline. The TDAC ARAP permit, Aquatic Resources Alteration permit, was also approved. So, Those two permits, those were something that the Vahalia Pipeline touted. We got the permits we need, you know, all the safeguard precautions have been taken. Those permits looked at surface water. We here in Shelby County get our water from underground. So thank you. So when your water comes from underground, you need to protect the ground, right? Not put a crude oil pipeline through it. So why are we here today? We here are calling on our local officials to pass the 1,500-foot setback for crude oil pipelines. And we're here to pass the Underground Infrastructure Review Board. Our local officials have the power because we gave them the power. We voted them in. And we're here doing our due diligence, our civic engagement to make sure that City Council understands the community's position on these two pieces of legislation. I had a long walk, so we're, you know, a little tired now, but we're still here in full force. So we're asking them to pass on the third reading the 1,500-foot setback, and that will protect parks, schools, religious institutions, and residential areas. It's been proven that only 7% of oil pipeline leaks are actually detected by the pipeline company's equipment. So we're trying to keep our children and our community safe from undetected leaks. We don't want them playing around in brown-soaked benzene full of toxic chemicals. 1,500-foot setback. We're looking for that. Third reading today. The other one, Ordinance 5794, that is looking at creating an underground infrastructure review board. So it's an extra permit any type of hazardous materials, primarily crude oil, would have to get, and it would include the voices from impacted communities where this pipeline would be proposed. It will ensure, yes, we need the voices of the people. It would ensure that our city is safe from liability, from the closure costs, from the cleanup costs of what would happen with this degraded infrastructure. Not a leak that would happen tomorrow, a leak that would happen in a decade, in 40 years, in 60 years. We know our pipelines are not always maintained on the day they're supposed to be. So this is to ensure that Vahalia Connection Pipeline or something like that, that is a joint venture from two companies, goes bankrupt and leaves the cleanup costs for our community, for the ratepayers and for the city. We need assurances that that would not happen. This ordinance would also look to see if this hazardous underground infrastructure would be routed through well fields. We know that we've got these wildland protection zones. We're not doing much with them right now, but it kind of makes sense to protect it, not having crude oil pipelines go straight through them.
Right.
Y'all remember the day Vahalia Pipeline was canceled? Yes, sir. So that same day, in the Gulf of Mexico, the ocean was on fire. That same day. So that was not maintained infrastructure. That was a gas pipeline that ruptured, and we saw the images. It looked like it was something out of a movie. And we want to make sure that we maintain what we have, and these ordinances would allow for the maintenance, repairs, and replacement of this infrastructure. We do not want it to allow for expansion without receiving the adequate permit. If they want to expand, you gotta do your due diligence. That's what we're asking. We're asking for that local oversight because we know our state and federal oversight was not enough. Right. You know, the next business day after Vahalia Pipeline, mentioned SEC filing that they canceled the pipeline. The next business day, on July 6th, we had Corey Thornton, who is Plains All-American attorney, show up to our city council and speak to our council members and lobby hard against these two ordinances. Now, I ask you, if this company is canceling a pipeline project, why would they care what we're doing locally in our government?
Thank you.
Great point. We think they're coming back with something else. So these two ordinances would provide that protection to ensure that our most vulnerable communities and our drinking water supply are safe from crude oil infrastructure. So in March of this year, FedEx announced that they have a 2040 carbon neutral goal. That means they don't want any more fossil fuels. We've got an international company headquartered here in Memphis, Tennessee, that is saying they don't want to add fossil fuels to their portfolio. We don't need that crude oil locally. So they have said they approve of these two ordinances, and we have a third ordinance that the city attorney, Alan Wade, is going to propose. This we have not seen. We don't know exactly what it entails, but it will have something to do with protecting our wellhead protection zones. We believe that all three of these ordinances need to be passed as a package deal. We do not believe that this new ordinance we have not seen yet will ensure the permitting processes that are included in Ordinance 5794. So we would like all three of these ordinances passed to protect our aquifer and to protect our communities from fossil fuel and other hazardous infrastructure. Don't slaughter our water.
Don't slaughter our water.
So we don't need any further delay. Our community, we have the power to safeguard future generations right now. Right now, today. So protect our aquifer. You know, we're about protecting our water, but we're about protecting the communities that rely on this drinking water. So today, we're calling on our city council to pass Ordinance 5794. All right.
5794.
5794.
5794.
5794. All right, with that, I will conclude, and then we'll be open for questions. If anybody else wants to speak? Ms. Burr? Okay.
So I'm Pearl Walker, Environmental and Climate Justice Chair with the Memphis chapter of NAACP, Civic Engagement Consultant for SACE, the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy. So I just want to share this. We're here today about these ordinances. This is not about hurting the economy, ratepayers, or the people. Today is about protecting the people and the environment. We must protect our water and the environment. Yes, 5794.
5794.
So I want to say this. Last year marked the 107th, last month marked the 107th anniversary of the Memphis branch of the NAACP. Earlier this year, on February 25th, 2021, the members and general body of the NAACP Memphis branch adopted a resolution and voted to take an official position against the Byhalia pipeline. Van Turner, President, and Vicki Turner, Executive Director. Additionally, the Tennessee State Conference has also taken a position against the Byhalia pipeline. Many judged that this was a historic moment for our chapter that was founded 104 years ago last month in 1917. And we're one of the oldest branches in the country. Ada B. Wells, that we just commemorated last Friday, was one of the founding members of the NAACP. So in honor of the 104th anniversary of the NAACP Memphis branch, Memphis City Council, we are asking that you don't repeat the history of our leadership during the yellow fever when they gave in to corporate interests.
Right.
No, a no vote is a vote in favor of corporate interests, so you must vote yes. Vote in favor of what is in the best interest of the people, the water, and the environment. We want a unanimous vote, 13 votes. We don't want a majority of 7. 13 votes, because inaction is unacceptable. We have waited, we have had all these delays. We cannot wait any longer. A delay is also a vote for not protecting the water, for not protecting the people, for not protecting the environment. We need legislation that protects our communities and our water. Since February, we have worked tirelessly with Councilman Jeff Warren, and Edmund Ford Sr. to pass resolutions and laws that address this regulatory gap that has been uncovered by Valhalia, not created by Valhalia. This is much bigger than Valhalia.
Right.
We must fight together. The Memphis community is stronger when we all work together. We need to protect our water, our people, and the environment. We scientifically and anecdotally have the best drinking water in the country. And it is imperative that we protect it in this generation and for future generations to come. So in closing, I will simply ask our leaders, you must vote to protect public health and the environment, preserve the Memphis Sand Aquifer, and promote environmental justice. Thank you.
Hello. I just want to say on behalf of the community, those at home, they're seeing this now. I ask y'all, please come join us on this fight, because not only this is a generational issue, this is also a community issue, and we're just waiting for the day when water becomes a more valuable resource for oil. So when that day comes, and it comes for you, well, we need to be strong together as a community. So please come join us on this environmental fight to protect our water supply and protect our city and just love our neighbor. So please, if y'all see this, please come join us.
Right.